You're listening to Blue Jays Nation Radio with Cam Lewis and Tyler Yaremchuk, a member of the Nation network of podcasts and delivered by DoorDash.
Ding dong, Coombsy. Episode 105. Turn that intro down a little.
That was really loud. That was really aggressive.
It was. Episode 105, BJN Radio, brought to you by DoorDash. Promo code BJNPodDD gets first-time users of the app 25% off and no delivery fees. And this month, we're brought to you by Montana's All-You-Can-Eat Rib Fest on until September 12th. For the Blue Jays, it's all-you-can-eat Win Fest right now.
Yeah, that's right. Things were getting messy at Fenway last night. That would have been Thursday night because the Red Sox aren't very good.
I'm going to start clipping this and sending it to Montana's and be like, look at how well we're tying you into our show.
I feel like for the last 3 consecutive podcasts in a row, I'd made the exact same joke being like the wild card race is Montana's messy. So I figured I would say the Boston Red Sox are Montana's messy because they're a disaster.
They're an absolute dumpster fire. This again goes back to beginning of the season. When you're sitting there trying to like size up the divisions and talk about who's good, who's not based on their offseason, the Red Sox are one of those teams where we're like, yeah, they're going to be like a really strong group this year. Like they're going to push the Jays, blah, blah, blah. And boy, they have just fallen off their bikes, for lack of a better phrase.
That's what they keep doing. Joke. That's what they keep doing. Oh yeah, the Chris Sale did fall off his bike. I wasn't sure if that was a Chris Sale joke or if that was a Fernando Tatis joke, but yeah. Chris Sale obviously makes a lot more sense. The Red Sox are weird though. It seems that no team goes back and forth more than them between being good and bad. Like, was there really that much of a change in their roster from last year to this year? They were in the ALCS last year.
Yeah.
And, you know, they go and add Trevor Story in the offseason and come back this year. And they're just terrible.
Well, yeah, they went and got Trevor Story. Like, it's not like they stood pat this offseason. It was like, again, it was supposed to be like, hey, Chris Sale's coming back and like all this stuff. And boy, just...
But their pitching is their pitching's a mess. Their defense is a mess. They just look like a team that's checked out.
So their last few seasons here, last season, you mentioned it, lost in the ALCS, a very, very good run. In 2020, pandemic shortened season, they were awful. 12 games below 500. 2019, they were only 6 games over 500, finished third in the AL East, didn't make the playoffs. 2018, they won the World Series.
It's just all over the grid. It's
right. And then it was back-to-back losses in the ALDS. So they were a playoff team for 3 straight years. And then before that, they were 6 under 500, 20 under 500. Then in 2013, they won the World Series again.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's when you never have expectations for them. Remember early in the 2010s, they had those super expensive teams where they had like Carl Crawford and all those names like that. And then they just flopped. Yeah. And then they come back in 2013 with all those random players, Shane Victorino, Johnny Gomes, and they win the World Series. It makes no sense.
At the same time, it's very hard to complain if you're a Red Sox fan, just because over the last 19, 20 seasons, they have done a lot of winning. Like they've delivered you 4 championships. Mm-hmm. But right now, the fans who were at Fenway this week were they had some long faces because the Jays took it to them. And at least for the first 2 games, it felt that way. The first game specifically starting the series off with a bang. But I want to talk a little bit about last night before we get into 3 up, 3 down. That was a game the Blue Jays, in my opinion, had no business winning. When you look at how many times the Red Sox just had to put a ball in play to win that ball game, and they could not do it. But the Jays found a way, and they've been talking a little bit post game, some of the players, about how, that felt like a bit of a turning point for them.
Yeah, that game perfectly kind of encapsulated just like 2 teams going in very different directions. That was a game where it kind of seemed at times where both teams maybe didn't have their best. It was a long, grueling game in a series at Fenway. It's always pretty draining. They always go on pretty long, but that game on Thursday went on forever. It had already been 4 hours by the time extra innings started. So it was one of those games where it just kind of wears on you. But the Red Sox towards the end had all these chances to score. You have Reese McGuire of all people hitting a inning opening triple. You have the bases loaded with nobody out, all these chances to score, and they just can't come through. And then meanwhile, the Jays on the other side, they look like 1 month ago, it's pretty hard to imagine the Jays executing a win like that. One where Matt Chapman makes a game-saving double play. It feels like a month ago or 2 months ago when everything was terrible and the Jays were on the road in Seattle and it looked like they were never going to win again. That Reese McGuire triple would have resulted in immediately a walk-off.
Sack fly.
Yeah, sack fly, little bloop single, something ugly like that. That's what would have happened. But now the Jays are just locked in. You see the talent on the team. It's everywhere, top to bottom. Everyone on the bench is contributing. The pitchers are all pitching quite well for the most part. And then the bullpen's getting the job done as well. And it's all clicking together. And the Jays all season they've always been a team that has talent, but they haven't all done well at the same time. And now it's finally clicking.
That's a great word to use it. We'll talk about Chapman. We'll talk about all that. You mentioned how long that game was at 4 hours and 22 minutes. It was the second longest game of the Blue Jays season, the longest 4 hours and 23 minutes back on June 21st when they were walked off by the Chicago White Sox. Yeah. I believe Dan Shulman did say it was the longest 9 inning of the Jays season as well. So games that wouldn't have gone into extra innings, although that one eventually did. Let's get into our 3 up, 3 down today, as always, delivered by our friends at DoorDash. But Coombsy, screw the downs. We are going all up today. 6 ups.
Good vibes only.
3 up, 3 down. Good vibes only. They won 6 of 7 against American League East opponents. They seem to be hitting their stride. They've, the out of town scoreboard is breaking, for them, I guess, because the Rays have also won 6 in a row and Seattle 6-4 in their last 10. But when the out of town scoreboard doesn't break your way and you look at that, I'd sit there and go, man, what a great time to rattle off some wins for the Jays, because you managed to stay in the race while all the teams around you stayed hot as well. So let's get into 6 ups, and we are starting with another quality start from Marco Estrada or Ross Stripling.
Yeah, the 2022 version of the 2015 Marco Estrada, as I said last time on the podcast, or that might have been 2 podcasts ago now, I can't remember.
I don't know.
Stripling almost throws a perfect game in his first game back from the injured list. And then in his next one, he goes out to Fenway and pitches 6 innings and allows just 1 earned run, strikes out 6. His ERA for the season is now down to 2.84. Coming into the season, I think if anyone had told you that this would have been like an automatic decision to issue Stripling a qualifying offer, I don't think you would have believed that person.
Yeah.
Now it seems like if they just let him walk into free agency without that, they are insane. Because, Stripling for most of his career with the Jays has been like a nice fill-in guy, pitches innings out of the bullpen or he spot starts here and there. But now he actually looks like a really good starter. And it's easy to forget this guy once upon a time with the very good Los Angeles Dodgers was an all-star.
Yeah.
It seems like a very easy thing to forget, but there's a legitimately good starting pitcher here. I would imagine somebody goes and gives him a multi-year contract, probably akin to what Steven Matz got last year. But if the Jays don't qualify Stripling, then I would be shocked.
Yeah, you at least want to get something back for him, right? And the qualifying offer gives you that option. If you're the Jays, maybe you can work out some sort of a 2 or 3 year deal with him. If you can't, and there are, financials holding you back, then boy, you're going to regret that Yusei Kikuchi deal even more, right? If that $12 million you're spending on him for the next 2 years prevents you from being able to sign Ross Stripling, not that because there's no cap obviously or whatever, but I'm just saying like when you're balancing your budget and you're like, still have that $12 million on the books for Kikuchi and we got to let Stripling walk. That'll be devastating.
Yeah, it wouldn't be ideal, but it also goes to show you why the Jays went and again, hit up the Los Angeles Dodgers and said, hey, you got a nice number 4 or 5 swingman starter type in Mitch White. Can we have him? And the Dodgers say, absolutely. Yes.
Mitch White's going to get the first start in the Angels series, and we'll preview that in just a little bit here. The next up we have here is another quality start from Jose Barrios, who came in and just got the job done for the Jays again. It wasn't, spectacular. He didn't go 8 innings of shutout ball, but he looked solid. 6 innings, only 2 earned runs. He struck out 6, gave up that 1 dinger, but for the most part, he was solid. And I think that's all you're asking for from Barrios. I'm sick and tired of the big ups and the big downs and the roller coaster ride. Just keep giving me 6, 6 1/3, whatever of 1 or 2 run ball. We're going to be happy.
And that's what we said last time. If Jose Barrios has a nice conclusion to August and a nice September where he's putting up these quality starts, and this is exactly all you need. 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 3 earned runs, more than fine. Doesn't need to be a perfect game, whatever. As long as he's doing that, we can just kind of forget those shitty starts earlier on in the season. If he has just finish off well down the stretch, just get into the zone, maybe have a good playoff start, that kind of thing. And we'll just sweep aside those weird 2-inning games where he allows 8 runs. Just pretend it never happened.
Barrios gets an up. I skipped over another one though, and this comes back from the first game where they managed to do that insane 2-out rally.
Yeah.
That's
how you know the team is locked in, when the team that usually would go 0 for 17 in a game with runners in scoring position is now suddenly putting up an 8 spot with 2 outs.
Yeah, it is crazy to see the way they were able to generate that. It was Gurriel, Teoscar, Chapman, Biggio, Springer, everyone chipping in. Springer with a triple as well in that inning. A great at bat. Actually, Chapman drew that walk, and while it's not as glamorous as a double off the green monster or anything like that, that was a great damn at bat with 2 outs. And it allowed them to continue on and score 5 more runs. Like if Chapman doesn't put together a great at bat, and I've been someone who's been critical of his approach with 2 strikes. There's been a lot of times where he gets 2 strikes and it feels like he just kind of goes like, swings at the next pitch and he's done. He put together a great at bat that allowed that inning to keep going. So I wanted to give him some love.
Yeah, lots of good at bats in that inning. Jackie Bradley Jr., same thing. He put up a good at bat, drew a walk in that inning. That's another just completely under the radar one that you're never really going to notice, is just like how much of an upgrade Jackie Bradley Jr. has been on Bradley Zimmer. Like if you had Bradley Zimmer coming up in that situation, it's inconceivable that he would have drawn 4 balls and walked to first base.
Yeah. And that's not that hasn't been like a rare occurrence for JBJ either, because he had a really good at bat against New York, doubled off the fence, scored a couple. Like there were people who were, he's not that good defensively and he doesn't run as well as Zimmer. So for being your 5th outfielder, like it's pointless to bring in Jackie Bradley Jr., but he can actually give you competitive at bats. And I understand that maybe come playoff time when you're not going to be using him as much, it might be like okay, yeah, sure. Maybe you'll miss having the speed of Zimmer to pinch run in the 9th. But for the rest of this regular season here, which is still important because there's a lot for this team to play for, Jackie Bradley Jr. is miles better than Bradley Zimmer, and you need him to contribute in the regular season. Deal with the playoffs when you get there.
Yeah, that actually kind of moves into another point I wanted to talk to, which is just like how well they've utilized the bench and how pretty much everybody on the roster right now, you look at it and you're like, this is a player that can contribute. Think to the 3rd game in the series when Kevin Biggio scores the go-ahead run with that really good slide, just a good read. And then also the same thing when the ball went under Vladdy's glove a little bit earlier and Biggio backed it up super nicely. I mean, you have Whit Merrifield as well, contributing really well in center field. The ball gets hit out there, could easily be a double, plays it really well, keeps it to a single. It's just, you have everyone playing well. And then everyone kind of talked at the trade deadline. They didn't add like a big name or a big star, but what they did was raise the floor of the team. And that's where you see it now, is there's no real glaring. I mean, I guess you can make the argument that like Kikuchi's still on the roster, so he's still a bit of a weak point, but there's no real glaring weak point on the team. Nobody comes out there and you're like, wow, this guy is so bad. Like, why is this guy taking an at bat? Why is he in the field? Why this? Why that?
And that is what it was with Zimmer. Zimmer was coming up to bat and you were like, okay, we're probably getting like a 3 or 4 pitch strikeout here. Yeah. And you're just not getting that with anyone else. And you mentioned, the way they utilize the bench in that 10 inning winner against the Red Sox to sweep them. They emptied the bench. Everybody played in that game. And then you look at the bullpen as well. And they basically emptied the bullpen as well in that game.
Yeah, it was Richards, Bass, Simber, Meza, Romano, and Romano pitched 2 innings.
Yeah. Which brings us into our next step. We're rattling through these really quick, but the bullpen was great in this series, specifically Jordan Romano, who just gave them an incredibly gutsy performance in that series finale. Goes 2 innings. It got a little hairy at some points, but I liked his quote of like, I'm just going to keep working, right? And that's exactly what he did. Forget that there's a guy on third base. Who cares? You're Jordan Romano. You can work through a terrible Red Sox order. He's a big reason why they came away with this.
Yeah, absolutely. It really looked like it was going to be a blown save in the bottom of the 9th there. You're going up against some pretty difficult hitters and you allow a single and a double, and then there's the intentional walk and he just gets through it. There wasn't like anxiety. It wasn't stress. It was, I'm going to strike this guy out and then I'm going to try and get something on the ground. Hopefully we can turn a double play. Kind of a funny thing, actually, just as a random note, is when Matt Chapman fielded that ball and he's about to pull his double play, you see Romano pointing home. He's like, don't try and pull this double play. Don't try and pull this double play. But he pulls a double play regardless. And then, he comes back out for the 10th inning after George Springer gives him the lead and just mows him down. It was a fantastic performance. The Jays have a real closer.
Yeah, they do. I think they called him Jamie Campbell and Joe Siddle after the game said he's in the elite of the elite in terms of closers in Major League Baseball. And I mean, I don't think that's the most insane thing to say when you look at some of the numbers he's been putting up recently. And the fact that he's been doing this now for a couple of seasons as like a full-time closer, he's got a 2.25 ERA this season. He's good.
2.25 ERA, 9.9 strikeouts per 9, which is a little bit less than his previous years, but he's also keeping the ball in the park more, which is good. He just looks like a bit more of a veteran closer. It's not like just a random fireballer who pitches the 9th inning. There's actually closer pedigree here now.
The Stripling start, Barrios was great. The 2-out rally in game 1. We got the way they're utilizing the bench and everyone seems to be contributing. The bullpen, specifically Romano. In the series finale, this is where we're going for one of our final ups. You had quite the stat from this back and forth game at Fenway.
Yeah, there was someone tweeted this and I actually kind of tried to buck the trend here and I sent Tyler a DM with the guy's tweet. And his ad is Alex Spire. And he said, before tonight, the last time a Red Sox hitter hit into a bases loaded, 1-out inning-ending double play in the 9th inning or later of a tie game was in April of 2010. That's something that never happens. The Boston Red Sox at Fenway, where they're so dangerous and so unbeatable and so pesky, grounded into an inning-ending double play when they could have won the game for the first time in over a decade. That's how you know this team is just moving in a terrible direction. They're having a bad time.
Okay, I like the way you took that, because I'll be honest, when you sent me that stat last night, I looked at it and I was like, why do I care about this?
Because it's funny.
It's like the most intrigue. Did you see the Adley Rutschman thing the other day?
That was great.
That was great. In our True Flavor, I don't know who sent this out, but it was on the Orioles broadcast, and it was like career home runs by a player whose last name starts with the letters R-U-T, and it was Babe Ruth, Josh Rutledge. And then Adley Rutschman was third. And like that was it. That was the whole list. Runs.
Josh Rutledge had like 20.
Babe Ruth running away with that stat.
They also missed, I guess they didn't really miss him, but there's a guy here named Mickey Rutner, who played for PHA, I think is the Philadelphia Athletics in 1947, and hit 1 home run.
Hit 1 home run?
So he should be on that list as well.
Well, he's behind Rutschman. They were just showing the top 3.
Yeah, I would have personally included Mickey Rutner, one of my all-time faves.
We've always been a big Mickey Rutner pod.
Yeah, he was born in Georgetown, Texas, and was buried in the Cook Weldon Capitol Park Cemetery of Pflugerville, Texas.
Baseball Reference puts where guys are buried?
Yes.
That's kind of messed up.
I don't know why anyone needs to know that, but sure, why not?
Wow.
The more you know. We were doing so well. Now we've trailed off into.
Yeah, we have. And we're only at the 16-minute mark of the pod. I want to give some love as kind of a bonus up here to Matt Chapman and the defensive series he had. You mentioned that double play, the awareness to be like, hey, I got time to not just prevent the run from scoring. I got time to step on third, turn a double play, and get us out of this inning. And he also had that play in the second game where he made just an impossible flip to Bo Bichette. The way he like had that in his backhand and didn't just get it there, but like he flipped it with velocity. Like that's probably about as hard as I can throw a ball. And he did that with a little backhand toss.
There was, I think it was on the broadcast. I think it was either Dan or Pat, one of the two of them, mentioned there, like, how do you even practice a play like that? Like, how do you have the skill to just execute mid game, like a backhand, quick, accurate toss? Where do you practice that? Like,
that's just instincts though. That's just being like a naturally gifted fielder. Like there's nothing you can do about that.
That just shows how good this guy is at playing defensive baseball. And that's how he was advertised. And it was a bit of a slow start for Matt Chapman, but man, this guy is really good. This is the guy who in 2018, 2019 finished 7th and 6th in MVP voting for Oakland and won 2 Gold Gloves. That's the player that the Jays thought they were getting, the player that Oakland hilariously gave away for, I don't even know who the players were that went back.
Kirby Snead.
Yeah, 3 roster fodder players.
Kevin Smith.
Yeah, just guys to make Oakland really cheap, and then one legit prospect who's already had Tommy John.
But I didn't say, Gunnar Hoffman.
Thanks, Oakland. I'm interested to see what third baseman the Oakland A's trade the Blue Jays in like 2025. Do they have any top prospects who are third basemen?
Kevin Smith.
No, not Kevin Smith. They have another guy. I think they have a different guy who's also named Max Muncy, who's an infielder. He's not Dodgers Max Muncy, but a different Max Muncy who plays third base. So the Jays
reincarnated Max Muncy.
You heard it here first. The Jays are going to acquire Max Muncy 2.0 in 2025.
Just looking at Chapman too, like the value he brings with the glove. And I remember back when Shapiro was on the broadcast talking about the upgrades they're doing to the Rogers Center. And as he was on, Chapman made a play at third. And Shapiro said something along the lines of, every game I watch him, he does a handful of things that make you go, wow. Like even if they're subtle little things, like they're wildly impressive in the field. And that's the true value Chapman brings. Like if anyone ever complains about his batting average is too low, or, he strikes out too much, blah, 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 blah. Like, it doesn't matter because the guy's going to save you runs with his play at third base. And actually the bat's starting to, I want to say, come along a little bit. It's been up and down this year, but like in the last month, he's hit 9 home runs. He's slugging .565. Like his numbers have been not terrible is my point. And he's so elite defensively that like, I don't know. I just remember people bitching about that trade like 2 months ago. And I was just like, what are you doing?
What it kind of reminds me of is back in 2008, 2009, Scott Rowland played for the Jays. And this is kind of a weird memory because it was back in that time where they had so many players coming in and out of the team. And there was only so many guys that ever stuck around. They were never very good, but Scott Rowland was very under the radar good. He put up a 780 OPS in his first year in 2008 and was just phenomenal defensively. And I think maybe when you look back, you think of Scott Rowland's time with the Blue Jays and you're like, I don't remember him hitting particularly well, but he was so damn good defensively. And that's kind of what you have with Matt Chapman is it's made the pitchers better having that behind them.
Yeah. Moving away now because like we said, no down, no 3 down, good vibes only. We ended up doing like 7 or 8 ups because we're feeling good about this team right now, as we should. They've won 6 of their last 7. Let's move into some other stuff from around the majors. Big news today, the Seattle Mariners and star rookie Julio Rodriguez agreeing to terms on just a massive extension. And this will go down as, I think, one of the more complicated contracts in baseball history. Jeff Passan has a mega thread that he just put out. I don't even think you've seen this yet, but I'll read it to you, Coombsy, all right?
Yes.
It's like 6 tweets. I'll just rattle them off here. The deal could be for 8, 13, 16, or 18 years. It guarantees Rodriguez $210 million. If it maxes out, it will be the largest ever at $470 million. Passan goes on to outline the key details. The base of the deal is for 8 years and $120 million. A somewhat important number for when we tie this back to the Jays. So the base deal is 8 years, $120 million. It includes this season and runs through 2029. After 2028, the Mariners must decide whether to pick up a club option. The size and length of that depends on Rodriguez's performance as determined by MVP voting.
Okay.
The option is for 8 or 10 years on top of the original deal. So in 2028, they must decide if they want to bring him back for another 8 years, for another 10 years, or presumably cut him loose. Depending on how, again, Rodriguez fares in MVP voting, both wins and finishes, that 8 to 10 year extension can be worth anywhere from $200 to $350 million. If the Mariners pick up that deal, Rodriguez's guarantee in the deal is at least a lump sum of $320, including the money he'd make in the first 8 years. Now, if the Mariners don't pick up the option that year, Rodriguez has a player option after year 8 for 5 years and $90 million. That's how it could be a 13-year deal with a $210 million floor. He could also turn that down and hit free agency right before his 30th birthday as well. Passan concludes this. And I don't even know what I'm reading at this point anymore, but Passan concludes it by saying Julio Rodriguez is a Mariner through 2037. Or he says this is the likeliest outcome. He's a Mariner through 2037 and makes at least $320 million, probably much more.
There's a lot to absorb there. The first thing that just popped into my head was how old I will be in 2037, and that's not exactly a thought I want to have. So I'm just gonna not talk about that. It seems like the kind of thing that could be a win for either side. It's impossible to say how exactly this is going to shake out because we're looking like 1,000 years into the future. But yeah, I mean, for the Mariners, they've locked up a very, very, very good player long term, just like Tampa Bay did last year with Wander Franco. For the player, it's a tremendous amount of stability. And I think that's the difference. You've already seen on Twitter today, like, oh, why haven't the Jays locked their stars up? And the difference is Julio Rodriguez isn't like a legacy child like Vladdy Jr, Jr., Bo Bichette. You know, Vladdy Jr Sr. made $125 million playing in the major leagues in his career. Dante Bichette, not quite as good, obviously not a Hall of Famer, but made a tremendous amount of money as well. So there isn't, I guess, the same desire from those players to jump the gun and lock themselves in forever before they can reach free agency, I think.
I get that. I don't think it changes how much you ask for or the likelihood that they want to take like a hometown discount or anything. But I do think you're right in the sense that there's no rush. Like if you're someone who comes from just an everyday normal family and you have the chance, in this case with Julio Rodriguez, again, I don't know his family background, but you're an everyday person who has a chance at a guaranteed $200 million. You take it. Don't sit there and be like, well, maybe I can make, 280 guaranteed over that time if I play things right. Just you take the guaranteed money. I think that's a good point. Vlad has no reason to sit there and be like, hey, I'm worried about blowing out my shoulder next year and not having any career earnings because he's already well off. You can maximize your value. You can take this thing out longer. I think that's an interesting point.
The other interesting point here is that when you see people talking about it today, they say they have to lock up their young stars and people are saying Vlad or Vlad and Manoah or Vlad and Alejandro Kirk. And you do not see Bo Bichette mentioned right now.
12 months ago,
yes,
you would have seen Bo Bichette mentioned in that. So, and we were talking before we started recording that's maybe the cautionary tale here too, right? Not that anyone doubts Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s ability to be a superstar. Not that I personally even doubt Bo Bichette's ability to continue to be an everyday shortstop for this team and be a damn good everyday shortstop for the next decade plus. But if you would have given Bo Bichette $300 million last winter, you'd probably be sitting there today going, "Hey."
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if I don't know, look at the slander Bo's taken this year from Jays fans in general. Everyone was, I mean, a lot of people were thrilled at the idea of trading him away in a Juan Soto deal, even if it meant adding other prospects as well. People are talking about Bo like he's something other than a guy who last year was a 23-year-old who finished 12th in MVP voting and was in the All-Star game and had an 828 OPS. This year he's all the way down to 724 and he's been struggling. You can see it when he plays games. He doesn't look like he's having a good time. He looks stressed out. And
he doesn't have the same energy that he did the last few seasons or the last season.
It looks like he's having something's going on. He's having a bad time. He's fighting a little bit this year. But the reality is progression isn't linear. Guys are going to, no, it never is. Guys are going to go up and down. It's going to be a bit of a roller coaster ride, but I don't know if this season is really one that makes you look at Bo Bichette and think, no, this isn't a player I want locked up long-term. But I think it also kind of shows you just how much pressure could possibly exist with contracts like this. If you imagine that, let's say the Jays had gone ahead and signed Bo last offseason to a 10-year, $300 million contract, which I think was kind of the numbers a lot of us were talking about for both the players. And if he was having this season immediately after, like what the pressure would be like, what the response would be in the media, like would fans start booing? Would people be pissed off? Like think about Jose Barrios too. Like he's had a strange season this year, up and down. He hasn't been terrible, but there's already been talk. People are saying like, oh geez, like we're getting a little nervous about that contract. Is that something they should have done? Like, it does. I had
someone tweet me the other day and say Atkins should be fired for signing the Barrios contract. We're like 3 months or 5 months into it.
Yeah, I know. This is inconceivable that a starting pitcher could ever have like a difficult 3 or 4 month stretch. But that's
even with Bo, like if he does not at any point bounce back this season, the likelihood is it's just a bad year. It's a blip. And he'll bounce back next year and be fine. And people don't, in all sports fans like to think like that. Like, oh, you can't have bad years. Like it means he's a bust and everything's always so definite and final. It's like, yeah, Bo could just have a bad season. And next year he could hit 305 and have really good defense at shortstop and be great. So you just never know. I don't know.
Ultimately, long story short, if they sign both those two guys to matching long-term deals in the winter, thumbs up. That's probably a good idea. If they don't do it, I do understand why. Those are two players who it would make sense if they opted to walk to free agency because of who they are. And also I do believe the pressure of signing such a deal is quite substantial for a young player.
I think it's a good point. Like we kind of forget how young these guys are. Me and you like to think of ourselves as young individuals.
Well, I don't think of myself as a young individual, but you think that way about yourself. I'm almost 30.
They're both younger than me still.
I'm almost 30 and you can see the hairline going.
For those of you watching on our video platform, actually, we don't do that. We did upload a video to the Nation Network YouTube the other day. So if you're listening to this and you want some Jay's video content, we might start uploading there more often. So subscribe to the Nation Network.
Somebody asked that yesterday in the Twitter account. They were like, can we put highlights on the clips when we're talking about stuff? Can we do that?
I don't think legally we're allowed to do that. YouTube would just like pull the video down.
Yeah, I feel like having the Montana's messy and then putting a Major League Baseball clip, it wouldn't work.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Unfortunately, that might not be an option for us.
All right, we're going to step aside, take a break. When we come back, we are going to look ahead at the series coming up against the LA Angels. All right, Coombsy, it is a weekend 3-gamer at the Dome. Jays and Angels. There's a marquee matchup mixed in there on Saturday. Manoah versus Shohei Ohtani. I heard the Dome is already sold out. That is a must-watch television.
Yeah, that's going to be an exciting game because they're also doing the 1992 30-year anniversary. And they're giving away a neat looking little bomber jacket and celebrating the 1992 World Series team. And then it's going to be Alek Manoah, one of the better young starters in the game, an emerging fan favorite among not just Blue Jays fans, people who like pitchers who have swagger.
People who hate the Yankees are starting to like Alek Manoah.
Exactly. If you hate the Yankees, then you like Alek Manoah because he owns the Yankees and their fans and Garrett Cole and their stadium. So everyone likes Alek Manoah. Everyone likes Shohei Ohtani. It's going to be a cool, fun game. The Angels are terrible.
1 win in their last 10 games.
Yeah, they suck. They they just got Mike Trout back from injury. He can go 5 for 5. It doesn't matter. They'll still find a way to lose. There's that tweet that always goes around with the Angels by Blue Jays fan Matt Tomic. And he said, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it's something along the lines of, Mike Trout went 5 for 5 with 2 home runs and Shohei Ohtani just did something for the first time since Tungsten Arm O'Doyle did so with the Cleveland Groomsmen in 1856, but the Angels lost 7-5. And that's largely what we're going to expect for this entire weekend. If the Jays don't pull off a sweep, then they've missed an opportunity.
They have. The Angels had a game a couple weeks ago against Oakland where they hit 7 home runs and lost the game 8-7. There was a game not that long ago where Shohei Ohtani went like 4 for 5 or something and also had like a dinger and 4 RBIs and they lost like 7-5. Like, it's just ridiculous how terrible they are. But if you're an Angels fan and you happen to be listening to this podcast, the good news is Art Moreno is planning on selling the team. And that must just be music to the ears of Angels fans.
That's interesting because, so let's say he does hypothetically sell the team. If let's say this happens in the next 6 to 8 months, so it's like before next season starts. You're buying what's going on right now.
Yeah.
If you're buying the team, would you come in and trade these contracts, these financial obligations, and start from scratch and do your own thing? Or when you're buying the team, is part of buying the team the fact that you have Shohei Ohtani under control for like 2 more years? Is that a positive for you? Are you looking at that being like, okay, I can inherit this guy and trade him away for a whole bunch, or I can inherit this guy and give him a $900 million contract and sell merchandise until the end of time?
I would imagine if you're a smart businessman, you would look at Ohtani as a prime reason to buy this baseball team. And you'd sit there and probably say, I'm the guy who can put the people in place to finally build a winner here. And Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout's stardom can grow even more when we start making regular trips to the playoffs. As someone who's a Blue Jays fan, not an Angels fan, I hope they trade him. Yeah. I hope the incumbent or whichever owner's coming in sits there and says, nope, rip it down to the studs and get rid of all this payroll. Because I would love for the Blue Jays to only have to give up a couple of prospects for Shohei Ohtani because they're also taking the rotting body of Anthony Rendon in the process.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also another hypothetical from a Blue Jays perspective is, let's say they are trading Shohei Ohtani and you get the 2 years of him before he can hit free agency. Would you acquire him and sign him to a big contract, even if it meant you had to let the Blue Jays' other 2 young stars eventually walk?
Yeah, I mean, it's Shohei Ohtani. You do it.
Really?
To get a historic player in there. And the thing is, I don't believe signing Shohei Ohtani to any sort of record-setting mega extension would prevent you from signing both Bo and Vlad.
Yeah, Rogers can easily go ahead and sign all 3 players.
They could sign all 3. I think realistically, you're probably signing 2 and letting one of them go, Bo. But like, you can sign Ohtani and sign Vlad. You can have your cake and eat it too in this scenario.
Sick.
Which is a saying I've never understood.
No, I don't get that either. Well, I mean, yeah, I thought you were going to eat the cake no matter what.
Why would you want a cake if you can't eat it?
So you can get your cake and you can't eat it either.
I'll pass on the cake then and take whatever the other option is. What
was the other weird saying you told me a little while ago? You came on here and you said,
don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, that was whack. Don't eat your cake.
Don't eat your children and throw your cake out with the bathwater.
We gotta cool it with these sayings. This is weird.
I will admit, tonight, Angels, Blue Jays, I'm a wee bit nervous about this game. The bullpen is gassed.
Yeah.
Mitch White, while he's been solid, they don't really trust him to go through the order a full 3rd time. Or at least they don't trust him to go super late in games by the way they've handled them. So I don't know. This is one where if the bullpen's gassed and you have a pitcher who hasn't shown the ability to go deep in ball games, I kind of sit there and go, I don't know if I trust them. The Jays minus 180 favorites. Angels are plus 150 on the money line. I never bet against the Blue Jays. That's not my style. But tonight, I don't think I'm betting on them because I'm a little nervous about this one.
Yeah, there's certainly a reason to be nervous after a game like this. I always have this one distinct memory of it was 2014. The Jays played that 19 inning game against Detroit. And I think it was, it would have been Chad Jenkins or Brad Lincoln. Somebody like that pitched like 6 innings and everybody in the bullpen got used. And then they jumped on a flight immediately to Seattle. And they got swept in that series because their pitchers were just gassed. I don't think that's going to happen here. But if they did come out on Friday and lose that game, given everyone's pitched a ton recently, sure, fair enough, whatever it happens. I do think in Friday's game, given the Mitch White circumstance, they might air him out a little bit more than usual.
Hopefully.
But if they don't or can't, then I think you have to try Yusei Kikuchi and just see what happens. You have to have him try and mop something up. I don't know.
He looked like he didn't know where he was throwing the ball in his most recent appearance.
No, that was probably the one down we could have come up with from the Boston series is that Yusei Kikuchi came out and got 1 or 2 outs in his outing and walked 3 guys. Is that what it was? It was, we like the idea of Yusei Kikuchi being the bullpen ace, Andrew Miller, because his stuff was going to play up and he was going to figure it out as a reliever, but I don't know.
I don't think that's coming. The best tweet I've seen though is someone just like poorly put a Kikuchi jersey over Edwin Diaz coming out of the bullpen, and like that video with the trumpets going. It's like
Yusei Kikuchi, coming out to walk 3 guys in 7 pitches.
That also brings us to our John Gibbons tweet of the week.
Oh yeah, here we go.
He tweeted before extra innings yesterday, "Oh no, here come the little league rules," which I love that he's against this because like it's actually a fine rule in my opinion. Eric Kareen from The Athletic goes, "I understand your/others' annoyance at the rule, but remember the Canada Day game that ended because you had to bring in Darwin Barney? I do." And Gibbons replies, "Oh, I remember. I was watching on the couch in my office for 17 innings.
Also, is Eric saying that like that was a good thing?
No, Eric's saying that because Gibbons is calling the runner on second a little league rule. Eric's saying, no, it's fine because we aren't going to have 19 inning games that end with Darwin Barney pitching.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought he was saying. And it was like, yeah, you're right. That makes sense because even the same thing, like the 19 inning game against Detroit before they went to Seattle, like, I don't know. They're fun to talk about as memories, but did anybody actually really enjoy like being at that like 8-hour game where they cut off liquor service before extra innings started? Like, does anybody want to be a part of that? I don't know. I'm fine with the extra innings rule at this point. I don't really care.
Yeah, I don't complain about it at all. Just quickly here, let's continue to take a look around the American League and what's coming up this weekend. If you're a scoreboard watcher, if for whatever reason you still think the Jays can catch the Yankees, they're 8 games back. The Yankees are playing Oakland, so they should be able to handle that with relative ease. Tampa Bay has a series coming up against Boston, so again, they should be able to beat them. And Seattle's playing Cleveland, so maybe there's a chance this weekend the Jays gain a little on the Mariners if things break their way, but I think this is a Jays team that's going to have to continue to kind of play at this 7-3 every 10 game kind of pace, and you do yourself a lot of favors if you sweep the Angels.
Yeah, well, while the Jays are heating up and they seem to be hitting their stride, because this is when the real teams show if they're good, is late August, early September is when everyone kind of pulls it together. Or from the other side of that, when you have spoiler teams who are calling up a bunch of random young guys trying to prove something. And this is when you have to play well. So, I mean, at the end of the day, if the Jays can't play well in September against New York and Baltimore and Tampa and those head-to-head matchups, then they just don't really deserve to be, the team hosting the wild card game in the first round. It is what it is. So we'll 100%. See how good the Jays actually are. So far, so good. They looked really good in this 7-game stretch, but we shall see.
Just quickly, a piece of news that's dropping right now. The Rays are apparently set to announce an extension with Tyler Glasnow that'll run through the 2024 season. He is out with Tommy John surgery, but the Rays are going to lock him up through the 2024 season. So Tyler Glasnow won't be hitting free agency. I think we covered a lot today on the pod.
Why does it feel like the Rays just signed a guy to a contract and he's going to get traded in 4 months?
Yeah, he's gonna he's gonna show he's healthy, make 3 starts with the Rays. Yeah. They'll flip him for 2 prospects. You'll be like, who? Then one of those prospects will hit 40 bombs in 2024.
Yeah, they're gonna trade him to one of those random teams. It'll be like Colorado or something like that, and they're gonna get so many good players back. And then we're gonna be like, wow, this guy. And then they're gonna flip that guy to Milwaukee for 2 better guys.
All right, Coombsy, you enjoy this series against the LA Angels?
Yes, I will try.
Manoah Ohtani on Saturday.
That'll be fun.
Could be game of the year kind of stuff. That's going to do it for episode 105 of BGN Radio. Shout out to PointsBet Canada, DoorDash, Ding Dong, BGN Pod DD gets 25% off, no delivery fees on your first order. And our friends at Montana's, hashtag Get Montana's Messy with all you can eat rib fest on now till September 12th. We'll chat with you at the end of the weekend.
Best wishes.
Thanks for tuning in to Blue Jays Nation Radio, a member of the Nation Network of podcasts and delivered by DoorDash. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from to never miss an episode.